So let's talk about the Home Builder Grant. So the Home Builder Grant is something that came out in June 2020, and the purpose is to stimulate the economy and in particular the construction industry. Now, there was a lot of anticipation and excitement about this $25,000 grant before all the details were revealed. So there's a couple of things you need to know. First of all, there is an income limit, and it's very similar to the income limit for those who are looking to apply for the first home loan deposit scheme. And that is $125,000 for singles and $200,000 for couples. Now, to get the $25,000 grant, you can do it in one of two ways. You can apply to build a new home, or you can apply to the renovation, a substantial renovation of an existing property. So let's just think about that new home and the construction of it. Now, traditionally and historically, what we know from the data is that inner ring suburbs, inner and middle ring suburbs, blue chip suburbs, investment grade suburbs, there where there's scarcity of land, where people want to live close to the city, have always gone up in value. Now, those outer ring suburbs and the new developments, the problem with that is there's no scarcity of land. So when you have actually constructed the new developments in the outer rings, there's more land to go to. So this can create some problems. The other issue about these new housing developments is that often what can happen is that, when the houses have sold originally, so let's say $450,000, and then been built, and then there's someone who's in a bit of a tight spot, and then they've dropped the value of their property to $400,000 to sell it quickly. That then becomes the value of your home. So you're really at the mercy of others, and because a lot of these properties are very, very similar, there's nothing to distinguish them. So traditionally, what we can see is that established houses have actually gone up in value more. Now, then there's the question of, well, what about units? Units in town, people want to work and live in town. That's good. What about units? Well, it's actually the same problem. So I was speaking to someone at a barbecue recently. They had a beautiful home in a blue chip suburb in Melbourne. They'd bought an investment property in the outer areas in a house and land development. What had happened was they had a tenant in that property, but then when the next development came along and was newer and cleaner and better, they just moved to that, and they had trouble. They had a lot of vacancies. So they had to move from their inner city home to this house and land package, 40 kilometres out of Melbourne. They rented their home out so they could live in this property. Finally, they were able to sell it and move back to their home. And when I was speaking to this lady at the barbecue, she said, we've learnt our lesson. We're not going to buy houses out of town. We're now going to buy a unit in town. Oh my goodness, in actual fact, she was doing the same thing and making the same mistake. There was no scarcity, and there was actually no distinguishing features that were different from what she was actually buying. So buying a off the plan unit in the centre of town, what happens when the most desperate person sells that property for $350 and you bought it for $400? The value of your property is then considered to be $350. You lose control of the property. So just think about the home builder for the new builds. Are you actually going to get the home that you want? Is it just to get the $25,000? And really, if you look at good quality established areas, you can make $20,000 to $25,000 in equity growth every year if you buy in the right area. So this $25,000 grant could actually lead, in my opinion, people to rush out to buy something new that is not going to serve them and create wealth for them in the future. So what about renovation and spending that $25,000 on a renovation, getting the grant? Well, you actually have to spend $150,000 up to $750,000 on the renovation. Now, that is a substantial amount of money. The property can't be over $1.5 million. So what does that mean? Well, let's have a think about this. What it could mean is that you could buy a property and have some money in the bank that allows you to renovate the property, which is great. Now, I started investing over 20 years ago. My strategy has always been to buy the best possible property I could buy in the best area, set for growth, the most typical property that most people want, and then renovate to add value. But here's the secret to renovation. You need to have pricing disparity within the suburb. So the unrenovated properties and the renovated properties have enough of a gap for you to make $2 for every $1 you spend. So let's just say you buy a $500,000 property and you have to spend to get this grant $150,000. I'd want to see a $300,000 uplift in value. The difference between $500,000 and $800,000 and finding a renovated property for $800,000 and an unrenovated one for $500,000 in the same suburb, that's difficult. What about $1 million property? $1 million property plus 150 plus the $2 for every $1, 1.3? Not so hard. So that pricing disparity is usually in the suburbs that have the higher value. I love the concept of renovating. I love the concept of being able to create equity out of thin air. My very first property I bought for $425,000. I spent $50,000 on the renovation, and 9 months later, it was worth $700,000. So I know how this works. I know that doing that as a first home buyer, I was able to create my first home, and after a year, move out, pull the equity out, go and live somewhere that I wanted to live, and leave that property as an investment property and go and buy something else with the equity that I've created. So the strategy of renovating to create equity is fantastic. Doing it as a first home buyer, I did it myself. I know how it works. But this home builder challenge, I think that most first home buyers might be looking at going, can we do this? First of all, you have to have that be under those income limits. Then you have to be very prescriptive about going into a contract in the next 6 months, within 3 months of that, starting the contract build. And I just think the renovation is going to, be something that is not going to create value for people. It's going to be an overspend. So, I know that with my renovation courses that I ran for many, many years, and we talk about, spend $1, make $2. You need the pricing disparity within the suburbs, so you need to understand that. But also what you need to be able to do is you've got to be able to create that higher and better worth. Now, we had a box on the back strategy that we were using. We could knock off the back of the property, use commercial property building techniques to actually create a butler's pantry and a kitchen and a lovely living room and French doors, etc. Now, that was all for under $120,000. So $150,000 renovation, that is significant. So if you are a first home buyer and you're considering the Home Builder Grant, it sounds fantastic, and I do hope it does stimulate the construction industry, but I think it might just be a step too far, for most people, and it could actually lead you into a false sense of security that you're getting money for nothing. You bought a good quality established house in a good quality area, the best that you could afford at the time. You're probably going to actually make that much money in the capital growth potential that is going to exist in the years ahead. So consider the Home Builder Grant, please. Understand the pros and cons. I know that we're hearing a lot of the very good benefits that are supposed to come from it, but just be mindful that it may not just suit you, and that $25,000 grant could actually set you back for many, many years to come. Anyhow, we are here to help you. If you'd like us to assist you and our expert mortgage brokers to work out if you are actually eligible for the grants or eligible for lending at the moment, please book a time with us. That's www.investorschoice.com.au/book a time. And for all of those who attend those calls with our expert brokers, I'm going to give you my first home buyers course to teach you how to think like an investor when you're buying your first home, because your first home can possibly be your first investment property and set you up for life. So I really would like to share that with you. Please book a time, and if we could be of any further help, let us know, and I'll have more videos coming your way soon.